Welcome back to Canadian Justice, where we're discussing cyber hacking and digital warfare. We're joined now by cybersecurity specialist David Shipley, who's the co-founder and CEO of Beauceron Security, a platform for measuring, managing, and monitoring cyber risk. Thanks so much for joining us, David. I wanted to start with the same question that I asked Imran at the beginning, which is how has the war in Ukraine changed the profile of cybersecurity risks to North America and to Canada?
Well, first, the risk of a direct attack from the Russian government or very known elements within Russia to Canada still remains low because there's a sort of known acknowledgement that any kind of large-scale denial of service attack knocking our banks or government websites offline, like what we saw launched against Ukraine, could prompt an action back from NATO and spiral things out of control. However, the greater risk is some of the malware that they've created in the past against Ukraine in 2017 and currently could leak out from that conflict zone, unintentionally causing billions of dollars in damage and disruption. So there's a moderate risk around that. There is a high risk that their criminal groups are going to be completely unleashed to continue to ramp up ransomware attacks in order to generate much needed currency for the Russian state. So those are kind of the scenarios that we're seeing, which we had a very bad year in Canada for ransomware. This could amp that atmosphere even worse.
I'm interested in the second example you gave of this sort of leaking of a threat. What would that look like in practice? Can you kind of paint a picture and give an example?
Sure. We've actually seen this play out in real life. In 2017, Russia attacked 100,000 organizations inside of Ukraine by poisoning the tax software they had to use to file their taxes. Unfortunately, among the global companies that had a Ukrainian presence included the global shipping firm Maersk and the pharmaceutical company Merck. From that Ukrainian network connection, all of Maersk's global shipping operations were crippled. Everything was ransomware. Their ports, their ships, everything. They were only able to recover because just at the time of the attack, one of the last servers that had all of their critical information to restore their network went down in the middle of Africa due to a storm. And so literally had to fly someone from London to the middle of the continent to pick up one hard drive. And that's the only reason they were able to recover. The damage from that attack is estimated in the billions of dollars from the collateral damage from that wiper.
So what is a way that businesses can protect themselves against a threat like that, or a direct attack, or even some of these other attacks that you've mentioned?
We've seen some good news out of the conflict. I mean, I saw some testimony by U.S. Cyber Command officials to the U.S. government this week indicating that preparatory steps they took in Ukraine, basic stuff, antivirus was updated, firewalls were turned on, patches were applied, people were trained to spot phishing emails, had a dramatic impact degrading Russia's ability to use cyber tactics in the lead up to the actual conflict. So there are some really basic hygiene steps that the American government and the Canadian government have been encouraging businesses here to do. Unfortunately, a lot of businesses don't pay attention to these issues, even to this day.
So we've been talking a lot about businesses and attacks on businesses and how businesses can protect themselves. What about individual Canadians? How vulnerable are individuals, and how can individuals protect themselves against these types of threats?
It depends on what kind of attack that we're talking about. If we're talking about the loss of your username and email address, that kind of annoying personal information breaches, then making sure you use random unique passwords for every site you have is what you can do. If we talk about some of the more tragic breaches we've had in Canada, Life Labs lost 16 million Canadians detailed lab results information, including HIV results. You don't get that kind of privacy back, and you can't just reside on the assurances of criminals. No, they paid us the extortion, trust us, we deleted it. Sure. Then you have the attack on Newfoundland that crippled an entire provincial healthcare system for weeks, severely degrading their ability to deliver life-saving care to people with cancer, other critical surgeries. And the average Canadian can't do a thing to protect themselves when their hospital's down. And we've seen hospital attacks, not just in Newfoundland, but in the Greater Toronto area, across the country. And so that's where we need government to do more to protect Canadians.
And we've only got about 30 seconds. Do you think governments are doing enough, especially with this infrastructure type of cybersecurity?
Not even close. And it's a giant wake-up call. I'm the co-chair for the Canadian Chamber of Commerce's Cyber Right Now campaign, and we spend half of what our G7 countries are spending, and we are getting pummeled because of it.